What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher in the field of human communication. So if you like things like influence, persuasion, human communication, how to level up your communication skills, then I would urge you to sit down and stay tuned. Check out the channel. Consider subscribing, hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this. So let's jump into today's video. So today's video is all about what to do when you are communicating with someone and they are not communicating clearly with you. And so this topic comes from the world of NLP and something called the meta model. So the meta model is just simply a way of getting people to speak more specifically when they are communicating, because the reality is many, I would argue even most people, do not speak specifically when they communicate. And this can be very challenging when you are communicating with them, especially with the intention of influencing or persuading them to do something. Because if they're resisting, or they're saying things, or they're making statements, or they're making claims that are very vague and not specific, well, then you don't really know how to proceed in the communication. You don't know if you're really overcoming the right objection. You don't know if you've isolated the right objection. You could wind up taking the conversation or the communication down a completely different rabbit hole or direction that's not really even relevant to the task at hand. And so what I'm going to share with you today is a technique from my book called Meta Model Mastery. And so within that book, there are 89 precision question patterns you can use to expose objections, control conversations, and close with confidence. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook you up with a free version of the field guide that is related to that book. Just go ahead and check out the comments. I'll put a link down there to a free Google Doc. You don't even need to opt in to get access to it. It's yours. It's free. Go ahead, grab it, check it out. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the book. And what I'm going to share with you here is number 5, right? So there are 89 of these questions. So why are they questions? They're questions because questions are one of the most effective forms of communication. What questions enable us to do, first of all, is they enable us to get clarity, right? Because that's often the number one barrier to favorable outcomes when we communicate with somebody, is a lack of clarity. Either we have a lack of clarity, the person we're communicating with has a lack of clarity, and questions enable us to drill down, to clear things up, and to get specific, and to avoid non-clarity, for lack of a better term. Questions also, you know, in a different context, I'll make a different video about this, but questions are also a very effective way to challenge someone's thinking without seeming like you're challenging it. So someone could make a statement that you don't agree with, and instead of just making a statement back to disagree with them, which would only cause more resistance, you ask them a question like, well, how do you know that to be true? Or have you ever considered? And so you're simply just asking them to consider a different point of view instead of trying to shove your point of view down their throat. But again, that's a different video for a different day. For today, what we're talking about is a simple technique to identify when entire concepts have been deleted from a statement, requiring you to recover what's missing. And so this is the simple deletion recovery. So in earlier videos, I've talked about that in the world of NLP, we learned something fascinating about the way humans communicate. In order for the human mind to preserve its cognitive resources, we take shortcuts. And there are 3 main shortcuts that the human mind takes. Number 1 are generalizations, where we generalize information. The next is where we delete information. We actually delete information from our recall. And then the third one is where we distort information. And again, all of these things happen kind of organically. None of us are immune to these things, myself included. I've done this stuff before. It's just, again, this is just the way that the human mind works. Where this becomes a problem is when people start using it in communication, because then if you're deleting things, and if you're distorting things, and if you're generalizing things when you communicate, then it can lead to turmoil. And so again, this simple technique, this is number 5 from the book, will help you identify where someone has deleted an entire concept from a statement. So here's how it works. When a statement feels incomplete or assumes shared knowledge, you ask clarifying questions to fill the gaps. So when you use this is when prospects make assumptions about what you know, when context is missing, or when critical details are omitted. Why this works is because people delete information they assume is obvious. Recovering it prevents miscommunication and reveals hidden requirements. So here's an example. Prospect says, we tried that before. You ask them, what specifically did you try? Prospect says, that won't work here. You ask, what specifically won't work? And you see, this is how master communicators operate. They're always forcing the person that they're communicating with to get specific. What an amateur would do is, so in this context, an example, this is an objection, right? So let's say you are, you're selling something to someone else, right? Some sort of a service. So let's just say it's media buying agency. You're selling media buying agency services. So what that means is basically that, let's just say you run Google and Facebook ads for online business owners. And so you're having a conversation with a prospect and you talk about, let's say, a 3-part Facebook ad strategy that you have, and you're like, yeah, this is the way we do it. So step 1 is we do this, step 2 is we do this, and step 3 is we do this. And the prospect says, well, we tried that before. What the amateur would do is they would not even acknowledge what the prospect really said. They would just assume that the prospect tried the entire thing, when that might not be the case. So again, if your process involves 3 steps and they're saying they tried that before, you would want to ask, what specifically did they try? Did they try all 3 of those things? Did they try them in the exact same order that you do them? Was there certain nuance that was missing from the way that they did it? But they do it in a different context? Like, these are all important questions to get to the bottom of, because if you don't, again, what you could wind up doing is trying to overcome an objection that's not even the real objection. And so that would just be a complete waste of time and energy for everyone involved. And so just asking this specific question, what specifically did you try? If they say that won't work here, what specifically won't work? A detailed example would be when a prospect says, we had a bad experience last time. You would say, well, what specifically happened last time? Prospect says, well, the vendor didn't deliver on time and we missed our launch. The consultant now knows that the real concern is reliability, and now they can emphasize their track record, delivery guarantees, and project management process. You see, again, this is important because oftentimes what people will do when they communicate is they'll talk about things that they think are important because those things are important to them, but those things might not necessarily be important to your prospect or to the person that you're communicating with. And that's why it's important to ask the questions that you need to ask to determine what specifically is important to the person that you're communicating with, so that you can present what you need to present in a way that they find favorable. So the example that I always give is like if you were selling a car that had a whole bunch of features on it, and let's just say those features for all intents and purposes, they are in two categories. There's the safety category, and then there is, let's just say, the performance category, right? So I have a car that can go really fast, and I also have a car that can go really fast, but it also has a bunch of safety features, right? So if a family walked in with their children and they were inquiring about this car, the first thing I would probably say is they're probably more interested in safety, but I wouldn't assume that. I would ask them, what specifically are you looking for in a vehicle? Because for all I know, maybe they already have a vehicle for the family, and maybe the husband is just looking at this vehicle because he wants like something for, to make him feel more masculine. I would want to get to the bottom of what it is that they are looking for in the vehicle, and then I would present the features of that vehicle in a way that seem interesting and valuable to the prospect, right? Because I could be looking at that vehicle, and there could be a list of features on that vehicle that I find to be valuable, and if I start talking about those things, but the prospect doesn't care about them, well, now I just unsold him on that vehicle, right? And so the same is true here, right? If you have a prospect that is telling you that something didn't work and you don't get clarity on what it is that didn't work, you could start talking about aspects of your business that they don't even care about, right? In this context, all they care about is reliability. And so here, all you would have to really focus on and lean on is your track record, delivery guarantees, and project management process, instead of maybe talking about all of these other things that really this person does not care about. So guys, like I said, I'm hooking you up with a free field guide. It is in the description. There's a link down there. Take you to a Google Doc. It's yours. Go have a blast with it. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know if you got value from this, and I'll make more videos like this. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.